Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to the Tried and Tested podcast. I am your host, Tracey, and so if you're not familiar with my show, this is a dating and relationship podcast where we literally talk about everything when it comes to romance, relationships, preparation, making up, breaking up, finances, just anything that has to do with relationships in general. And so today we have a special guest. We have a return, actually, to the return guest. We have Mommy K. Say hey.
Hey. Hi. Thanks so much for having me again.
No problem. Thank you so much for taking the time out to be a guest today. And I think this episode is really going to be really insightful for women who are either single or who are in new relationships and who are intending to get married at some point in time. So this is obviously, well, the topic first and foremost is self-preparation before the vows, women edition. So I did one with men where with a guy and kind of, asked him like what he's doing to prepare before he gets married. And so this is the female edition of it, and this is kind of like what we both are possibly doing, or, what we suggest that you do, but pretty much what we're doing in our time of singleness. Okay? So,
sounds good.
All right. So basically, I'll start off first with just saying that I think that if you are a woman, I do believe that there are things that you should be doing in a time of singleness. I think some people feel like their life doesn't begin until they have a man. And so that space where they are single, they may just be relaxing, like they just don't care. They're not doing anything to improve themselves because they feel like a man is like Superman and he's going to save them. He's going to give them money. They're going to lay on their back all day. They could just be very basic. And that's not something that I believe. So that's pretty much my first thoughts of like why this topic came about, because I looked at both of us and I felt like, there's forward movement all the time, right? With or without a man. So, okay, so we're going to start first with the living situation. So I guess you can give examples of your living situation as a woman that is preparing, for the future with a man and so on and so forth, and what you feel like maybe a living situation should be for a woman who's in the process of like moving forward in life.
Oh, okay. I guess, before you even brought this topic up to me, I really thought that the idea of waiting on a man was dated. Until I started like looking around, because you're doing your own self-reflection. So you're not looking externally to see what's going on around you. It's more or less for me, it's always been what kind of woman and I think everybody should ask themselves this question. What kind of woman I see myself to be in a marriage? You know what I mean? Like, what is your outlook? As when you see a wife, what do you admire? What do you aspire to be? I've never aspired to be the woman that just sits around and wait for a man to come save me, nor have I ever aspired to be, the house mom or the housewife of the house, where the man is always a provider and giving me everything while I just keep the house. And I think it's probably true for you also. It's maybe it's in the grooming, because both of our moms were always business women. And so that ideology was never passed on to us. So it seemed to me very, very dated that people would think a man is here to save you. I always thought myself as a partner to the man. So that's, God has ordained for me. And so for me to just sit on my behind and do nothing until he arrives is kind of irresponsible.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. Yeah.
That's how I see it. And to your question, I kind of rumbled. I forgot your question.
The living situation. So what do you think as far as preparation?
Yeah, for the living situation, I would say, for me, I lived, when I was in Brooklyn, I lived by myself for 10 years while I maintained a job and went to school full-time, both full-time job and full-time schooling. I lived with, a roommate by myself until I moved to Texas here. I'm currently living with my aunt, but that's a temporary situation right now for me because I'm in a different state. I relocated. And it's going into its second year. But in the meantime, while living with her, I wasn't just living, trying to find a man. I still have my job, a new career. I still have my job. I've saved up, and I've currently put down on a house, you know,
Yeah.
and so by the end of the year, I should own a house. Like, I'm going to own a house. This is a big step.
Yeah.
And a lot of
Yeah.
people would say, you know, why would you want to buy a house if you want to get married and you and your husband are going to move into a house together? Probably.
Mhm.
Yes. That's the goal. That's the expectation.
Yeah.
But you have to put into perspective. For me, my husband has to be a reflection of what it is that I'm doing for myself or wanting for myself. And so
Mhm.
if I'm expecting a man to come into a relationship or to the table, having lived on their own, I've done that. Having, you know, owning property, especially at my age, I've done
Mhm.
that. And so, you know, that's part of the investment aspect of it. I'm
Yeah.
invested into my future. Even if we do move into a new house, what is it to like be a partner who's self-sufficient and can bring some money to the table
Mhm.
for the next investment? You know what I mean? So it's never a
Mhm.
waste of time.
You know, I definitely
That, you
agree.
know,
100, yes, 110%. I think that, so I feel like that some way, somehow women may, not all women, they may feel that, you know what, I am a young woman. I'm not yet married, so I should stay in my parents' house. I should live with them. I should let them pay the rent, or, you know, it's free here or whatever. And I think that financially it may make more sense, but then it's like as a human, as a woman, I feel like you're not really learning discipline and you're not really learning what
yes,
it means to kind of be on your own. So that's
yes,
definitely first things first, because I feel like, I mean, yes, it may be out of your comfort zone. Like for me, I don't like roommates, right? So I went
mhm,
to boarding school when I was younger. I don't like roommates. I think I haven't had a roommate since my first semester in college. But as far as living on my own, like I've always had a one bedroom apartment since like for the last like 6 or 7 years, right? And I feel
mhm,
like that teaches me, or that has taught me, you know, to kind of be self sufficient. That has taught me
yes,
to kind of, you know, be like have a certain mindset. And it also taught me how to kind of handle money more, because now I know that, okay, I know I have to pay these bills on my own. And that's a life lesson. That's something that it teaches me. But also, so the apartment that I'm living in now, like it's cool. You know, people like it when they see it, but I'm just like, okay, whatever. But I'm in the same boat as you. So I'm looking
mhm.
for a house for myself, right? And so I think that there are some women who feel like, oh, well, if I'm going to get married, let me just wait for my husband to get a house. And I'm like, no,
And
because,
you know, not to cut you off, but I think a lot of those things, I don't know if those ideologies come from the mothers telling that to their daughters. A man has to take care of you, or you're going to have to wait for your husband to get you that house. Or
yeah,
just save your money. Save your money and sit on it for what? That ideology of saving. If you ever looked at your money in a savings account, it does not
hmm
increase. It
no,
does nothing but, you know, like source the bank into
yep,
doing what it is that they need to do. And so
yeah,
what are you holding on to that money for? You should have emergency money, but that's
yeah,
saving, even if you have $100,000 just sitting down on.
hmm
What are you doing with that money to grow it? And what is it
But we
teaching you
gonna
in
talk
that
about that.
meantime?
We gonna talk
Yeah.
about investments. We gonna get to investments. But so like I said, like so with the house, like as far as the property or whatever, like I feel like for myself, I feel like okay, you know, I've been living here and it's just it is what it is. But I'm like I don't want to move out of here and go pay rent somewhere else, right? At this point, I want to
Mhm.
own my property, and so for me, I began the process of looking for a townhouse that I can get. Now, obviously with properties, like I said, I think the reason why I don't feel like I have to wait for my husband is because let's say I buy this house and my husband doesn't have a house, or he does, then now we have two houses, right? And we have a property
Yep.
that can be sold, or we have a property that can be invested in. But I just think
Yep.
that I'm like I don't have the mindset that it's just like my life is supposed to be a certain way. So it's kind of just like I think that women as a whole, like you have to remember that you're powerful, and you know you also have things that you can bring to the table. And like I feel like so yeah, that's definitely like as far as living situation, I think people should kind of you know think outside the box and do a little bit more. But that's my goal. Like that as I'm preparing for my husband, yes, I can still get somewhere nice to live that I want to live now. And then, you know, whatever. So what about
And it
the
also
cooking?
raises the bar or the standard for you, you know, when you're
Yeah.
living on your own. A man that
Yeah.
comes to you also has a different respect or appreciation for you, rather than,
Yeah.
oh, she just was to her mom. Right now, it's not like she has anything else to add to me as a man. And
Mhm.
so what am I looking at?
Yeah.
You
And
know?
and I think a lot of women, we have this ideology in our head that like we're supposed to marry a rich man that looks good and blah blah blah, which is cool. But it's just kind of like I think in that dream life that we have or whatever, when we think about this person, well, what do you have to contribute besides being just pretty, right? Like, what kind of mentality do you have? What kind of money do you have? What kind of mindset? Because in my opinion, when you get married, you're supposed to be coming together with somebody to, like, take over the world, essentially. Like, y'all supposed to take off, right? And be the best version of both of you. So that definitely is, as far as, like, the living situation goes. So what about the cooking situation? Like, so we talking about while you're single, trying to get your life together and so on and so forth. What has that been like for you? Are you somebody that can cook really well? Are you somebody that's learning?
I've always cooked, though.
Okay.
I've always cooked. For me, and a lot of people are not going to agree with this, for me, as a woman, you should know how to cook. When a woman says, I know how to cook now at age 25, it's baffling to me. Because I've been cooking since I was 13. No, seriously. What are you so proud of?
Yeah.
That's, like, okay, you can cook, okay? It's like, okay, to me.
Yeah.
But maybe that's me being judgmental. I don't know. I would say at this point, if I should consider anything, learning how to cook, maybe learning how to do different things rather than what I was taught. The basic, mac and cheese, lasagnas, your chickens, your soups, learning how to, I don't know, incorporating different cultures of cooking or cultural ideas of cooking into what I'm doing. Like expanding the horizon of my menu,
So knowing how to make different types of things. I don't know. I mean,
that's me. I don't know.
I mean, so I agree with you, but I feel like I'm somebody, I like to eat, but I don't like to cook. Right? And so I feel like it's not that I don't know how to
not liking cooking. I don't like to clean. I don't like to clean. I don't like to do laundry. That doesn't mean I don't know how.
But I feel like if you don't put it into practice, then you kind of like, so basically I feel like I know how to make stuff, right? But because I don't cook often, I feel like I wouldn't be somebody, like this is something that I should be trying to do better in quarantine, but I'm somebody who knows how to order food, or I'm somebody who knows how to make things easier, right? So I could go to the grocery store and buy a frozen lasagna and put it in the oven and bam, you got dinner. You get what I'm saying?
That's not cooking.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm giving you like a true example. Like, so for me, it's like
I get what you're saying. And in today's modern world, if you're going to have a self-empowered couple, there's going to be those days where you're not going to be able to send a kitchen for 2 hours, to prepare that gourmet meal that he might appreciate. And so I understand, I'm not that woman. You should, there's going to be those days where, especially as a power couple, that you guys are not going to have sufficient amount of time to go and, cook every day or prepare that 2-hour gourmet meal. There's going to be days where you go outside and, get the fast cooked whatever, just to get the day going, especially if there's kids involved. But at the same time, you should know how to cook. You should have, like, what are the values that you're teaching your girl child or even your boy child as you grow up? You should know how to cook as a woman. For me, it's a non-negotiable. When I hear girls can't cook, it takes me aback. I'm not saying be a pro chef, but you need to be able to put food on the table. That's all that it is to me. And I'm not saying, I'm not only saying this for girls as well. I'm also saying this for men. You should know how to cook, even if it's your 3 basic. I can make water. I'm just joking. I can make water, eggs, and whatever. You should know how to do that and very well. Sure, you don't cook all the time, but there's those. It's like riding a bike. There's those things like baked macaroni and cheese and chicken. I can do it with my eyes closed. You know what I mean? Even if it's like my favorite 3 dishes and going for both male and female. You should know how to make it. What happens when your wife is sick and you get me to eat? What happens if something tragic happens? Yeah, I mean, for me, it's one of those things that I find like survival, knowing how to cook.
Yeah.
And so, sure, it's, society-wise, it's been pushed onto women to really know how to cook, or they can't do without cooking, just like I'm saying right now. But I think it's essential for men to also know how to cook. Like I was saying, for me, my husband is a reflection of me. I don't aspire to live in a home full of double standards. Yeah. I know how to cook. You should know how to cook.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you're going to do it every day.
Yeah.
But
And
you
I feel
should.
like I said for myself, like I feel like I don't cook, but I do know how. So that's at least
Right,
that's
and
where
that's
I guess the
fine.
benefit is. Yeah. So it's
That's
kind of like,
fine.
but I
There's
guess
those
also
meals.
living alone.
Yeah, there's those meals that you just, I can throw this together in like 30 minutes. You know how to
Yeah.
cook. You just haven't,
Yeah.
I guess, put a time aside the time to make it flourish or become.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is good with practice. I can braid, but I
Yeah.
can't braid, with the designs. I can cook, but I can't. I'm not a chef. Those things are
Yeah.
fine. And if you ever decided that this is what you want to really hone in on and grow it, you can do it.
Mhm.
You know.
Mhm. Okay,
So
definitely. All right. So as we continue to talk about, like, how to prepare yourself before the vows as women, I guess you can use this either for yourself or just what do you suggest that people do? So as women, like, when we have like really bad habits or we have like maybe a really bad attitude or we're easily angered or we have like, different mindsets during this time of not being married and kind of doing your own thing, like how do you feel like for yourself that you were actually able to work on those things and kind of change your thought process? Because I would assume that maybe from 5 years ago till now, you probably had growth in different areas of your attitude and your demeanor and mindset and things like that, correct?
yeah, I've definitely grown. I'm not the same person that I was 5 years ago. I
Mhm.
want to say when my mom came to my graduation, like, 2 years ago, she like sat me down and had a conversation with me because she saw how I moved around. And she definitely told Mom Kay, I see how you move around your house and it's your space and it's a good thing. I admire it. I respect it. It's nice. But have you ever thought about if somebody else was in your space? And she said this
Mm.
because I'm a person that's very particular. If I ask you to put something from here, like right here, please don't put it anywhere else because that invokes an attitude in me. Because for me,
Mm.
it represented your lack of respect for my space. But if you're going to get married and allow somebody or want somebody to be in your life, that person is not always going to necessarily agree with where you put the remote. They
Mhm.
might want to put it elsewhere. So that comes from how are you growing yourself? And for me, I've realized that if they don't put it on the right side, as long as I can see it on the left side or somewhere on the TV, that's good enough. And that's a compromise aspect of it.
Mm.
Initially I wanted it on the right side of it. It's just an example. On the right side of the TV because that's where I'm used to having it. If I close my eyes and I touch the right side, no doubt I'm going to touch my remote. But that's just
Mhm.
you living by yourself. And that goes for everything. But if if the guy or whoever you've invited into your life to build a life with decides to put it on the right side, it's in front of the TV and it's still visible. Does it really have to,
Yeah.
the left side, does it really have to be on the right side for you not to have an attitude? And that's where I was at the time when she had that conversation with me. It doesn't always have
Mm.
to be specifically to you. What are you doing to allow people into your life that won't feel like
Yeah.
you're being a burden or an inconvenience to you because they're in your
Yeah.
space? Are you going to let them feel comfortable? And I think for the past 5 years, that's what I've been working on, being more
Yeah.
inviting. It's okay. I'm not saying, compromise on your deal breakers, but those little things that really annoy you or, those little things that you never thought you were going to like what amount of compromise can a woman do to still, I guess, uphold their integrity as a woman, So for
Mhm.
me, that's why I don't know if I answered your question, but that for me, that for the past 5 years, that's what I've been working on, being more inviting.
Well, I feel like that's definitely part of it. I think like, cause I mentioned like anything like as far as bad attitudes or bad habits, attitudes or mindsets. But yes, I do think that as women who have lived on their own by themselves for quite some time, we do get set in our ways versus people who are
Yeah.
probably at home with family and things like people are always in their personal space. But for me, I almost feel like my apartment is like a cave. Like once I go in, like everything is how I put
That's
it and
your
that's it. You know what
sanctuary.
I mean?
Yes.
Yes.
But
And so it's
eventually
kind
it's
of just
not going
like
to be
even,
just your sanctuary. It won't.
oh no, definitely. And I mean, I've at a point in time, I lived with one of my boyfriends. This is way back when, like we lived together. So I know what that experience is like. And so, but I feel like now that it's been so long, it's just kind of like my mom, when she comes, she's like, oh, my God, I can't do nothing. I can't touch nothing. I'm just like, oh my goodness. So that is
Yeah.
something that I feel like it's kind of like, it's hard for you to work on unless you like host people a lot because you're so used to it and it's just kind of normal to you. But of course, the person you're going to be with may also be that way, or they may be very relaxed or whatever. And so there's a lot of things like just in the home alone that I feel like that I'm working on as far as my mindset goes and all of that. And then also, I guess with my attitude, so I don't date much now, right? In the past, like I was out there like dating every weekend because I would like to be social, right? So I feel like during this time, I think that now like I'm more aware of my personality and who I am, and so I try to work on in my time, like I try to work on my attitude. I try to work on seeing things from different angles and different, just trying to make sure that I'm not coming off the wrong way, or I'm not sounding the wrong way when I deal with people and things like that. So in this season, I feel like that's something I'm working.
I understand what you're saying, but in that same aspect, I'm just going to play devil's advocate really quickly. Are you dimming your light just so that you can get up? I mean, are you dimming your light just so you can get along? You said, your approach to, handling people or how people view you and stuff like that.
No, so this is not just for
I'm
men,
not into
but
that
in
too.
life. Yeah,
Okay.
so this is not with men, but I'm saying in general, like I feel like, cause my attitude, like I used to be able to just say anything to anybody, but I feel like now, like I said, I'm just trying to, it's like I have more time to kind of see my character and see who I am. And so what I do is I try to just definitely work on my attitude piece by piece, because there will be a point in time where I'll have to deal with somebody on a regular basis, and I want to make sure I know how to speak to people properly. I know how to deal with people properly, et cetera. So I'm just saying in my time of being single, this is something that I feel like now I can actually replay events with anybody, with a stranger, with a customer service rep, with somebody from church, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I feel like this is a process where I'm trying to work on bad habits.
I do agree with that, and I've also done the same thing, developing a filter, like in a good way. Not everything that you think of should be said out loud, and how you say it should be very compassionate. You can't always spew out a truth to a person without thinking about how it's going to go over or how it's going to make the other person feel. And so I think that's also part of growth and maturity, especially in developing yourself to become a wife or a partner to somebody. You have to find a balance between the way you're talking to people, because a lot of times our, independent females or people who have everything don't feel like we need to, like cut down or filter out. Be respectful. Like, I wouldn't even say respectful, because, the intent is not always to disrespect, but it's always to tell you the truth, how I see it and how I mean it. But you're not really taking into consideration how it might go over and how the person might feel about what you just said. And I think developing a filter, and a way to talk to somebody, you can speak the truth and still boost people, like boost people's, I guess, rapport of themselves without having to tear down. You know what I'm trying to say? If that makes sense.
Definitely.
And so that's one of the things that I personally have been working on, because I was the person who did not care. Like, okay, it is the truth though. If you're nasty, you're nasty, but you don't have to say you're nasty. I don't know how else, right? Like, it has to be a little bit more of maturity and polish to you as you wait in your season of becoming that wife. But put yourself in the shoe of, what if it was you? What if he was that raw to you? How would you appreciate that? Would you be okay with that? Would it be even borderline abuse because you think that you're it? So those are the things. Checking yourself.
Yes. Okay, so because we don't have a whole lot of time, I'm gonna start putting some of the topics together. So the next one I'm gonna say, as far as preparing yourself, I would say is finances, careers, and investments, right? And those are three broad topics, but it's like I'm gonna try to put them together. So basically, like, how do you feel like you should be preparing, or how have you been preparing financially, with your career and with investments in general?
You and I both know when it comes to career, I've always been on point. Like, I'm the one that's going to school, getting that career. But in getting that career, my first career as a respiratory therapist, I feel like I was very irresponsible with my money. And for the past 5 years, this is what has been evident to me, because I feel what changed between me becoming a career woman in the last 5 years before I decided to go to nursing school was not much. All I did was buy a car. I still lived in the same apartment in Brooklyn. I traveled a little bit more, but what else did I really have? You know, what else was a career showing for it? And it translated to my financial responsibility. My credit was bad then. Now it's good because I spent the time to take care of it and to build myself up and build my credit, pay my bills on time and all that. And so I fixed my credit. I became more financially responsible. You know, if I was taking 5 trips a year, I'd cut it down to about 2 so I can save that rest of that money, you know, bank it and do what I am doing now. As far as investment, and so you end up polishing, you know, your finances, pay your bills, you know, on time, be more financially responsible, like save up a whole lot more than you were before. And with the saving, just leaving it in the bank is not enough. And so you need to start opening up, you know, and talking to people, assisting people who are going to teach you more about investment. You know, your circle really does define you. If you stick with the circle that you were from high school, if they haven't grown, you won't grow. You know, put yourself in that position where to be talking to people about these things, you know, growing financially. I've started investments, you know, especially in real estate, you know, put in, even if it's $1,000, put it into real estate development. Every time I find something very interesting that I haven't learned about before, I start reading books. Before it was love novels. I always read, but love novels and everything else in between, you know, ghetto books, for lack of better terminology. You know what kind of books I'm talking about. But now I'm finding myself reading a whole lot of more self-help books, more investment books, more, you know, people who have made it or people who have made it financially that I aspire to be like what they're saying, more blogs like that, more. And so you start, you know, in your waiting season, these are the things that you should be doing for yourself. You know, you become more financially stable, mentally stable, all those things. And that's what personally I've been working on. I'm investing more. Like I said, I'm buying a house. That's a very, very good investment, as we said before. My bank account looks much healthier than it was before. The buying and spending has become very, very, it's not important to me anymore. For me to buy those bags that I used to, or those shoes that I used to, or spend that kind of money investing in frivolous, you know, things. Everything that I do right now, my mindset is more like it should be an asset and not a liability. And an asset is something that earns you money. A liability is something that just takes away from you or takes away money from you and doesn't put back into you. You know, what is a bag going to do? I'll never sell it for the price I bought it for. And so it's a shoe. But a house, you know, an investment, And so that's where my mind is right now.
Yeah, so I definitely agree. I feel like with finances, I feel like in general, I think that it's very important to pay your bills on time and to kind of take that out first, right? And of course, with investments, I feel like there's, for at least for me, like I invest in the stock market. Like if there's shares that I really want in a particular company, I'll definitely do that. And then of course also with property. So like I'm in the process of, looking for like real estate, like properties to purchase and to also invest in, because I feel like that's a better opportunity than to actually put the money in a savings account. Let's say if you invest in a property and you have a tenant that's paying you $3,000 every month for their rent, you're getting a return on your investment, whereas you put $100,000 in the bank and in a year, how much are you going to get back? You know what I'm saying? Exactly.
It just
but you also make a lot of money and they use your money. You know what I'm saying? So there's I feel like there's a whole lot of mindset shifting, and yes, you should get around the right people, because I feel like some people, honestly, everyone is at different levels and different speeds when it comes to what they want in life. So some people, like you might, like the same way you're saying, like, oh, you're going to get a house. And I'm like, well, yeah, girl, like we're in the same boat. But then there's some people who will look at you, they won't even say nothing.
Right.
You're like, oh, I'm looking at her.
Because they're not there yet.
They'll just, but they're not even nowhere near close. Because it's kind of just like, even if you're not there yet, you can be like, oh, you know, congratulations, that's dope. Oh, like, you know, when I'm ready, I'm going to contact you. You get what I'm saying? But I have a lot of friends who already, a lot of them already have houses and things. And so it's kind of just like I have that opportunity to be able to also ask people about it. But yeah, that's definitely, I would say something that's important, you know, as far as that goes. So, all right, let's talk about, let's see what else I got here. Okay, so I guess you kind of touched on this briefly as far as like with the self-help books and things. So let's talk about character, your self-awareness, your self-esteem, and your identity before you get a man or before you get married to a man. Like, so how have you worked on those things? And we can't be talking forever. So, like,
Yeah.
just
When it comes to character and self-esteem, character is really something I feel like you've developed for years on hand. I don't know. Your identity is something exactly like you're working on it right now. I didn't know who I was a long time ago, but my character was always my character. You know, I just feel like character is a word that's very misused. I don't even know how to define it. It's gonna have to be another topic, so I'm just gonna table that. But it's, you know, like seriously, self-identity though, for me, it's who you see yourself as and how you're going to work towards, you know, becoming that person. For me, I think I've already like explained it. I see myself as a partner in a marriage. It's almost to the point that sometimes when I talk to people, they're like, "Oh God, it's a marriage, not a business transaction." But it is. It really is, and that's how I see it. When I see the identity of my marriage, I see the power couple, like we said, and I've seen the person. You know, when I bring to the table, you match my energy the same. Especially when it comes to not only finances, but you know, the way in which we see our marriage to be. We can't be on two different wavelengths when it comes to stuff like that. You can't tell me that you want 10 kids when I want only 2. You know, somebody's going to end up, somebody's going to, it's just an example, somebody's going to end up getting hurt, or that could be something that could, you know, drain a marriage really quickly. I don't know. So that's it for self-identity, and that was, what was the other thing?
So it's pretty much, it was like self-awareness, self-esteem, and self-identity, and then like, of course, your personality or character. So pretty much how you identify yourself. Like I think that as women, we should build ourselves up as far as getting it together, being able to know that you are beautiful, how you are. Like, you know, like you don't want that low self-esteem.
And that's self-esteem. And I mean, for me especially, I came from a very, very like low self-esteem place. Most people might not think that way, but I really did. It was a point in time where I felt like I wasn't enough. And that goes into, you know, my past relationships. Like, have you dealt with that? Have you dealt with those past traumas that are going to translate into your next boyfriend, your next man, your next potential husband? Are you going to project those things onto the next person that's trying to love you? These are some of the things you need to be working on. And so for me, it's always been therapy. And again, those self-help books. There's nothing wrong with any of those things. Mental health is very important. That also helps you build yourself, you know, build your self-esteem up. A lot of times because of past traumas, and know who you are as a person. A lot of times the things that have happened to us in our past make us very one-way-ish, should I say. If this doesn't happen, that means this. If this doesn't happen, that means that. But that doesn't necessarily mean, or if he doesn't love me this way, that means he doesn't. Just because of what you've gone through before. A lot of people will demonstrate the same behaviors, but with different intent. So should your, you know, trigger points really be, oh my God, he said red and so I have to run. Maybe the red might mean something to him. So I guess being a little bit more tolerant also comes with, you know, getting those therapy sessions going if you need it, you know, opening that book and reading it and see how people view certain situations, letting go of the pain, letting go of the hurt, realizing that not all men are the same, those kinds of things. I mean, it's a broad topic and we could keep talking about it over and over again. But you know,
as far as
self-identity.
So I definitely think that as far as women, like I think that you should be able to look in the mirror and recognize who you are. You should be able to know, okay, maybe I have a dominant personality or I lack in leadership or I lack in this, but you should be able to kind of know all the things that you are great at, the things that you are working on, the things that you maybe, like we talked about from the past and maybe you haven't dealt with. But I don't suggest, and this is something that I do for myself, I don't suggest after a relationship has ended that you just kind of stay at that level and that's okay, because normally when a relationship ends, you're probably lower than you were when you came in, right? And so now you have to kind of work on yourself and kind of get your mind right, get your, everything about you, okay, well, I get angry at this or I get angry at that. So I feel like during this time or whatever is where you should kind of really try to work on your self-esteem and work on who am I, like actually who am I, like, so that when somebody tells you something about you, you don't get offended and get upset.
You don't get offended, actually, or when you see behaviors in other people, it's not a trigger for you.
Yes.
For you to say, okay, this is what the person means, because last time I heard that kind of statement, this is what that person meant. Not projecting your past onto people is a very, very big thing. Not projecting how you view things onto people is a very, very big thing. If, I guess your interpersonal relationships or your people relationships needs to be something that you work on even before you get married,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Because I feel like that causes a lot of issues in relationships because it's kind of like we're who we are, and it's like, but sometimes you don't even realize who we are, and then you have people tell you, and I've had experiences with situations where, like I'll be talking to people that I know, and they'll tell me that the last 10 guys, they all told me this, and it's all the same thing, but the person won't believe it. They won't believe it because they feel like, oh, that's what all guys say, and the reality.
But that's how you know you haven't done any work.
And that's exactly
you
the
just
purpose
kept jumping from relationship to relationship.
Yes.
You haven't done any work. You haven't self-reflected. You haven't done any work. Yeah.
So
even putting relationship aside, even when somebody, if you find like 3 people telling you something about yourself, it's probably true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
but
you need to work on that.
Like that way. I've heard people say like, oh no, all guys say that. And I'm like, no, like I have dated men and they have never told me that. So it's not all guys that say that. And I'm like, these guys, they didn't go around the world and find each other and have a meeting about you and say, look, we're going to tell her this. You know what I'm saying? So like people really have to kind of be very aware. But I think that that's something that would also help, before you get married, because you don't want to be dealing with things like you said from your past. So that's definitely that. And because we do have to wrap it up. So I would say the last point that I want to make, well, there's 2 points actually. So one is hygiene. So like I would just say like, just make sure, you brush your teeth and you take a shower. Sometimes when you live alone,
that's so basic.
No, but
that's so basic. You're not brushing your teeth and taking a shower, like for real, sis.
But I go out and you smell people. Haven't you been out like and you smell women? Like that
Lord.
Girl. But
that comes with self-care, no? I feel like during your single and waiting period, you should be loving on yourself. I mean, that's what I do. I mean, you should be loving on yourself. You should be, I don't know, sometimes I even role play, like, whoever, like, sees me and doesn't want this is a joke. Like, you should be, and that comes from, trying to love yourself even more, loving on yourself, doing the things that you wouldn't have done before. If it's like a spa day, I've transitioned into not doing my nails because of work specifically, into getting more massages and spas. And for me, that's a whole top to bottom rather than just doing so whatever it is that you're doing to grow yourself or to love on yourself more, or to make yourself feel more beautiful is what you should be doing. And to be beautiful, you have to brush your teeth.
But some people are unaware, and so I think that maybe we should also be in situations where you should actually ask people around you, because there's people who I smell them. I can see you once a week, and every time once a week for over 2 years you smell. But how can I tell you that? You get what I'm saying? Because to you that may be your regular scent, but to me it's a repellent, and so it's just kind of like I think that we need to be aware of like, okay, have I done this? Did I wash my hair? Did I brush my teeth? Did I wash my private areas? Did I, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many things, but I feel like that's something that, should definitely, I think, be looked at. And then
I'll just leave it at self-care, because these are things that bother people when you bring it up. And so however you see fit your self-care to be, that's what you should be doing when you're single.
Yeah.
And waiting.
I definitely agree. And then so, my last point, and I would say that while you're in this, time period of trying to get your man or whoever, I think that you should know what you want out of life. And so you mentioned about how many kids you want, and I feel like everything as far as what kind of vision you have for your life, what is your plan, how much money do you want for your life, how much property, you should be in a season of getting your mind together about what you want. But what do you think about that?
I think that I've done that too. You know, there's going to be a point in
Mhm.
time where you need to pick up the pen, a piece of paper, and, you know, really reflect and see what it is. Like when you see yourself in the future, how do you see it? What's going to make you
Yeah.
happy? Because the person that walks into your life that's going to add onto your, not make you happy, but add onto your happiness has to reflect those things. You know,
Mhm.
I see myself as a business owner, even, you know,
Yeah.
is this person into that? Will they support me?
Mhm.
You know, and so you have to
Yeah.
write down these things. I see myself only having 2 kids, maximum 3. If this person
Mhm.
comes into my life and say that they want 10 kids, I can't support that. That's going to make somebody, you know, miserable. You know,
Yeah.
if this person, I'm a person that works all the time. I've always held like 2 jobs. Is this person going to be okay with that? And if and if that should change, will they be able to support the household? And that's the finances. If one of us were you know, the future is to
Couldn't have
sit
worked.
it out and
Yeah.
not work, right? And sit it out
Mhm.
and not work. Will we be okay? And so these are some
Mhm.
of the things that you need to be evaluating while you're single and having
Yeah.
an outlook on your life. I'm not saying that write the things down and be so rigid that you cannot move around it or cannot make any
Yeah.
kind of adjustments but you need to have an idea of what's going to make you happy and what's a no, what's not going to make you
Yeah.
happy. Like for instance, for me, if my husband ended up sitting at home, that would really bother me. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
that would really
But some
bother
people
me.
don't care. Some people just
Some
want a
people
husband. They
don't
don't care what
care.
he's doing.
Right, right.
So it has to be
And
for
if
you specific.
you know, if my husband became a house husband, that would really, really bother me. So that's an example of things
Yeah.
that it's not, like that's a deal breaker for me. At no point, unless
Mhm.
you became ill and have to give up your job,
Yeah.
that you can control. But
Yeah.
if it's by choice for you to just stay home, I would have to evaluate. Because for me, that speaks to my ideology of what a man is, a
Yeah.
provider. You know, and so that tears that down for me. And so I might not be okay with that. So yeah, that's just an
Definitely.
example of, yeah, the
Knowing.
things.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but I feel like you have to know what you want because you can't just kind of be blown with the wind or, you know, you meet a man and he looks exactly like what you want him to look like and then you realize that you don't really have anything in common. So I think that that's something
Mhm.
also. And also when you realize, so I think when you know what you want and you really know what you want, you won't waste any more time. So because it's
You
kind of like
don't.
you may meet somebody and when you know these things, you know, then it's kind of just like it's not going to take you 6 months or even 3 months, you know, to
Thank
figure out,
you.
okay, it's a
To
waste of my
figure out.
time. And so,
And
yeah,
doing
definitely.
that work is also part of dating with purpose.
Mhm.
You're not just going with the flow of whatever the man says or seeing where it goes. That's one of the things that
Yep.
I hate so much when guys, let's just see where it goes.
Girl,
No, we're not going to see
girl.
where it goes. We need to know while we're at this table. You know, it's a waste of time. It's a
No, it
waste of
is.
time.
It
And
definitely
so
is. It
that's for
definitely is.
you knowing what it is that you want out of that relationship. That's for you knowing what you want out of your life and where you see yourself to allow somebody
Mhm.
to waste your time for 6 months. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can sit at a table at a date with a guy, and in that moment, I know this is not it, and that's because
Well,
I've done
yes,
work.
I agree with that too. But honey bun,
Yeah.
so we gotta wrap it up. We went over. But I definitely thank you so much for the insight. I think that it would help people, like I said, who are women who sometimes they don't know, you know, which way to go and what they should do. So these are some things that you guys can actually begin to do or to begin to look at that would help you in your season of preparing yourself so that you don't go into a relationship blind as a bat. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
before we head off, I know that I don't know if your social media is still private or not.
It's
If
public
it is,
now.
oh, okay. All right. So if anybody
Right.
wants to follow you on social media, where can they find you?
It's at Miss Appel. That's MS_APPOU. Very simple.
Okay.
Miss Appel. Yes.
Yes, honey. All right. So thank you so much for taking the time out today. And to my listeners, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. And until next time, everybody have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.